Chapter 8, Part 1 of The Dream of the Red Chamber by Cao Xueqin, translated by Henry Bencroft Jolly. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. By a strange coincidence, Chia Pao-yü becomes acquainted with the golden clasp. In an unexpected meeting, Hsüeh Pao-ch'ai sees the jade of spiritual perception. Pao-yü and Lady Feng, we will now explain, paid on their return home their respects to all the inmates, and Pao-yü availed himself of the first occasion to tell Dowager Lady Chia of his wish that Ch'in-chung should come over to the family school. The presence for himself of a friend as schoolmate would, he argued, be fitly excellent to stir him to zeal, and he went on to speak in terms of high praise of Ch'in-chung, his character and his manners, which most of all made people esteem him. Lady Feng, besides, stood by him and backed his request. In a day or two, she added, Ch'in-chung will be coming to pay his obeisance to your venerable ladyship. This bit of news greatly rejoiced the heart of Dowager Lady Chia, and Lady Feng likewise did not let the opportunity slip, without inviting the old lady to attend the theatrical performance to come off the day after the morrow. Dowager Lady Chia was, it is true, well on in years, but was nevertheless very fond of enjoyment, so that when the day arrived, and Mrs. Yu came over to invite her round, she forthwith took Madame Wang, Lin Tai-yü, Pao-yü, and others along and went to the play. It was about noon when Dowager Lady Chia returned to her apartments for her siesta, and Madame Wang, who was habitually partial to a quiet life, also took her departure after she had seen the old lady retire. Lady Feng subsequently took the seat of honour, and the party enjoyed themselves immensely till the evening when they broke up. But to return to Pao-yü. Having accompanied his grandmother Chia back home, and waiting till her ladyship was in her midday sleep, he had, in fact, an inclination to return to the performance, but he was afraid lest he should be a burden to Mrs. Ch'in and the rest, and lest they should not feel at ease. Remembering, therefore, that Pao-ch'ai had been at home unwell for the last few days, and that he had not been to see her, he was anxious to go and look her up, but he dreaded that if he went by the side gate at the back of the drawing-room, he would be prevented by something or other, and fearing what would be making matters worse, lest he should come across his father, he consequently thought it better to go on his way by a detour. The nurses and waiting-maids thereupon came to help him to change his clothes, but they saw him not change, but go out again by the second door. These nurses and maids could not help following him out, but they were still under the impression that he was going over to the other mansion to see the theatricals. Contrary to their speculations, upon reaching the entrance hall, he forthwith went to the east, then turned to the north, and walking round by the rear of the hall, he happened to come face to face with two of the family companions, Mr. Chang-Kwang and Mr. Dan Bing-brun. As soon as they caught sight of Pao-yü, they both readily drew up to him, and as they smiled, the one put his arm around his waist, while the other grasped him by the hand. "Oh, divine brother!" they both exclaimed, "this we call dreaming a pleasant dream, for it's no easy thing to come across you." While continuing their remarks, they paid their salutations and inquired after his health, and it was only after they had chatted for ever so long that they went on their way. The nurse called out to them and stopped them. "Have you two gentlemen," she said, "come out from seeing master?" They both nodded assent. "Your master," they explained, "is in the Pao-ch'ai small library, having his siesta, so that you can go through there with no fear." As they uttered these words, they walked away. This remark also evoked a smile from Pao-yü, but without further delay he turned a corner, went towards the north, and came into the Pear Fragrance Court, where, as luck would have it, he met the head manager of the household treasury, Hu Xin-tung, who, in company with the head of the granary, Dai Liang, and several other head stewards, 7 persons in all, was issuing out of the account room. On seeing Pao-yü approaching, they in a body stood still and hung down their arms against their sides. One of them alone, a certain butler called Chen-Hua, promptly came forward as he had not seen Pao-yü for many a day, and bending on one knee, paid his respects to Pao-yü. Pao-yü at once gave a smile and pulled him up. "The day before yesterday," smiled all the bystanders, "we were somewhere together, and saw some characters written by your master Secundus in a composite style. The writer is certainly better than it was before. When will you give us a few sheets to stick on the wall?" "Where did you see them?" inquired Pao-yü with a grin. "They are to be found in more than one place," they replied, "and every one praises them very much, and what's more, asks us for a few." "They are not worth having," observed Pao-yü smilingly, "but if you do want any, tell my young servants, and it will be all right." As he said these words, he moved onwards. The whole party waited till he had gone by, before they separated, each one to go his own way. But we need not dilate on matters of no moment, but return to Pao-yü. On coming to the Pear Fragrance Court, he entered first into Aunt Hsüeh's room, where he found her getting some needlework ready to give to the waiting maids to work at. Pao-yü forthwith paid his respects to her, and Aunt Hsüeh, taking him by the hand, drew him towards her and clasped him in her embrace. "With this cold weather," she smilingly urged, "it's too kind of you, my dear child, to think of coming to see me. Come along on the stove couch at once. Bring some tea," she continued, addressing the servants, "and make it as hot as it can be." "Isn't Hsüeh Pan at home?" Pao-yü having inquired. "He's like a horse without a halter." Mrs. Hsüeh remarked with a sigh. "He's daily running here and there and everywhere, and nothing can induce him to stay at home one single day." "Is sister Pao-ch'ai all right then?" asked Pao-yü. "Yes," replied Mrs. Hsüeh, "she's well again. It was very kind of you 2 days ago to again think of her, and send round to inquire after her. She's now in there, and you can go and see her. It's warmer there than it's here. Go and sit with her inside, and as soon as I've put everything away, I'll come and join you and have a chat." Pao-yü, upon hearing this, jumped down with alacrity from the stove couch, and walked up to the door of the inner room, where he saw hanging a portiere somewhat the worse for use, made of red silk. Pao-yü raised the portiere, and making one step towards the interior, he found Pao-ch'ai sitting on the couch, busy over some needlework. On the top of her head was gathered, and made into a knot, her chevelure, black as lacquer and glossy like pomade. She wore a honey-coloured wadded robe, a rose-brown short-sleeved jacket, lined with the fur of the squirrel of 2 colours, gold and silver, and a jupe of leek-yellow silk. Her whole costume was neither too new, neither too old, and displayed no sign of extravagance. Her lips, though not rouged, were naturally red. Her eyebrows, though not pencilled, were yet blue-black. Her face resembled a silver basin, and her eyes juicy plums. She was sparing in her words, chary in her talk, so much so that people said that she posed as a simpleton. She was quiet in the acquittal of her duties, and scrupulous as to the proper season for everything. "I practise simplicity," she would say of herself. "How are you? Are you quite well again, sister?" inquired Pao-yü, as he gazed at her, whereupon Pao-ch'ai raised her head, and perceiving Pao-yü walked in, she got up at once and replied with a smile, "I'm all right again. Many thanks for your kindness in thinking of me." While uttering this, she pressed him to take a seat on the stove couch, and as he sat down on the very edge of the couch, she told Ying Erh to bring tea, and asked likewise after Dowager lady Chia and lady Feng. "And are all the rest of the young ladies quite well?" she inquired. Saying this, she scrutinised Pao-yü, who she saw had a headdress of purplish gold twisted threads, studded with precious stones. His forehead was bound with a gold circlet, representing 2 dragons, clasping a pearl. On his person he wore a light yellow archery-sleeved jacket, ornamented with rampant dragons, and lined with fur from the ribs of the silver fox, and was clasped with a dark sash, embroidered with different coloured butterflies and birds. Round his neck was hung an amulet, consisting of a clasp of longevity, a talisman of recorded name, and, in addition to these, the precious jade which he had had in his mouth at the time of his birth. "I've daily heard everyone speak of this jade," said Pao-ch'ai with a smile, "but haven't, after all, had an opportunity of looking at it closely. But anyhow, today I must see it." As she spoke, she drew near. Pao-yü himself approached, and taking it from his neck, he placed it in Pao-ch'ai's hand. Pao-ch'ai held it in her palm. It appeared to her very much like the egg of a bird, resplendent as it was like a bright russet cloud, shiny and smooth like variegated curd, and covered with a net for the sake of protection. Readers, you should know that this was the very block of useless stone which had been on the Ta Huang hills, and which had dropped into the Ching-Kung cave in a state of metamorphosis. A later writer expresses his feelings in a satirical way as follows: "New Hua's fusion of stones was e'er a myth inane, but from this myth hath sprung fiction still more insane. Lost is the subtle life, divine and real, gone. Assumed mean subterfuge, foul bags of skin and bone. Fortune, when once adverse, how true, gold glows no more. In evil days, alas, the jade's splendour is o'er. Bones white and bleached in nameless hill-like mounds are flung, bones once of youths renowned and maidens fair and young." The rejected stone has in fact already given a record of the circumstances of its transformation, and the inscription in sealed characters engraved upon it by the bald-headed bonze and writ below will now be also appended a faithful representation of it. But its real size is so very diminutive as to allow of its being held by a child in his mouth while yet unborn, that, were it to have been drawn in its exact proportions, the characters would, it is feared, have been so insignificant in size that the beholder would have had to waste much of his eyesight, and it would besides have been no pleasant thing. Well, therefore, its shape has been adhered to. Its size has unavoidably been slightly enlarged, to admit of the reader being able conveniently to peruse the inscription even by very lamplight, and though he may be under the influence of wine. These explanations have been given to obviate any such sneering remarks as what could be, pray, the size of the mouth of a child in his mother's womb, and how could it grasp such a large and clumsy thing? On the face of the jade was written, "Precious gem of spiritual perception. If thou wilt lose me not, and never forget me, eternal life and constant luck will be with thee." On the reverse was written, "To exorcise evil spirits and the accessory visitations, to cure predestined sickness, to prognosticate weal and woe." Pao-ch'ai, having looked at the amulet, twisted it again to the face, and scrutinizing it closely, read aloud, "If thou wilt lose me not, and never forget me, eternal life and constant luck will be with thee." She perused these lines twice, and turning round, she asked Ying Erh laughingly, "Why don't you go and pour the tea? What are you standing here like an idiot?" "These two lines which I've heard," smiled Ying Erh, "would appear to pair with the two lines on your necklace, miss." "What?" eagerly observed Pao-yü with a grin when he caught these words. "Are there really 8 characters too on your necklet, cousin? Do let me to see it." "Don't listen to what she says," remarked Pao-ch'ai, "there are no characters on it." "My dear cousin," pleaded Pao-yü entreatingly, "how is it you've seen mine?" Pao-ch'ai was brought quite at bay by this remark of his, and she consequently added, "There are also 2 propitious phrases engraved on this charm, and that's why I wear it every day. Otherwise, what pleasure would there be in carrying a clumsy thing?" As she spoke, she unfastened the button, and produced from inside her crimson robe a crystal-like locket, set with pearls and gems, and with a brilliant golden fringe. Pao-yü promptly received it from her, and upon minute examination found that there were in fact 4 characters on each side, the 8 characters on both sides forming 2 sentences of good omen. The similitude of the locket is likewise then given below. On the face of the locket is written, "Part not from me and cast me not away," and on the reverse, "And youth perennial freshness will display." Pao-yü examined the charm, and having also read the inscription twice over aloud, and then twice again to himself, he said as he smiled, "Dear cousin, these 8 characters of yours form together with mine an antithetical verse." "They were presented to her," ventured Ying Erh, by a mangy-pated bonze, who explained that they should be engraved on a golden trinket. Pao-ch'ai left her no time to finish what she wished to say, but speedily called her to task for not going to bring the tea, and then inquired of Pao-yü where he had come from. Pao-yü had by this time drawn quite close to Pao-ch'ai, and perceived whiff after whiff of some perfume or other, of what kind he could not tell. "What perfume have you used, my cousin," he forthwith asked, "to fumigate your dresses with? I really don't remember smelling any perfumery of the kind before." "I'm very averse," replied Pao-ch'ai blandly, "to the odour of fumigation. Good clothes become impregnated with the smell of smoke." "In that case," observed Pao-yü, "what scent is it?" "Yes, I remember," Pao-ch'ai answered after some reflection. "It's the scent of the cold fragrance pills which I took this morning." "What are those cold fragrance pills?" remarked Pao-yü, smiling, "that they have such a fine smell? Give me, cousin, a pill to try." "Here you are with your nonsense again," Pao-ch'ai rejoined laughingly. "Is a pill a thing to be taken recklessly?" She had scarcely finished speaking when she heard suddenly some one outside say, "Mrs. Lin is coming," and shortly Lin Tai-yü walked in a jaunty manner. "Oh, I've come at a wrong moment!" she exclaimed forthwith, smirking significantly when she caught sight of Pao-yü. Pao-yü and the rest lost no time in rising and offering her a seat, whereupon Pao-ch'ai added with a smile, "How can you say such things?" "Had I known sooner," continued Tai-yü, "that he was here, I would have kept away." "I can't fathom this meaning of yours," protested Pao-ch'ai. "If one comes," Tai-yü urged smilingly, "then all come; and when one doesn't come, then no one comes. Now were he to come today, and I to come tomorrow, wouldn't there be, by a division of this kind, always some one with you every day, and in this way you wouldn't feel too lonely, nor too crowded? How is it, cousin, that you didn't understand what I meant to imply?" "Is it snowing?" inquired Pao-yü, upon noticing that she wore a cloak made of crimson camlet buttoning in front. "It has been snowing for some time," ventured the matrons who were standing below. "Fetch my wrapper," Pao-yü remarked, and Tai-yü readily laughed. "Am I not right? I come, and of course he must go at once." "Did I ever mention that I was going?" questioned Pao-yü. "I only wish it brought to have it ready when I want it." "It's a snowy day," consequently remarked Pao-yü's nurse, dame Li, "and we must also look to the time. But you had better remain here and amuse yourself with your cousin. Your aunt has in there got ready tea and fruits. I'll tell the waiting maid to go and fetch your wrapper, and the boys to return home." Pao-yü assented, and nurse Li left the room and told the boys they were at liberty to go. By this time Mrs. Hsüeh had prepared tea and several kinds of nice things, and kept them all to partake of those delicacies. Pao-yü having spoken highly of some goose feet and duck's tongues he had tasted some days before at his elder sister-in-law's, Miss Yu's aunt, Hsüeh promptly produced several dishes of the same kind, made by herself, and gave them to Pao-yü to try. "With a little wine," added Pao-yü with a smile, "they would be first rate." Mrs. Hsüeh thereupon bade the servants fetch some wine of the best quality. Dame Li came forward and remonstrated. "My lady," she said, "never mind the wine." Pao-yü smilingly pleaded, "My nurse, I'll take just one cup and no more." "It's no use," nurse Li replied. "Were your grandmother and mother present, I wouldn't care if you drank a whole jar. I remember the day when I turned my eyes away but for a moment, and some ignorant fool or other, merely with the view of pandering for your favour, gave you only a drop of wine to drink, and how this brought reproaches upon me for a couple of days. You don't know my lady, you have no idea of his disposition. It's really dreadful, and when he has had a little wine he shows far more temper. On days when her venerable ladyship is in high spirits, she allows him to have his own way about drinking, but he is not allowed to have wine on any and every day, and why should I have to suffer inside and all for nothing at all?" "You antiquated thing," replied Mrs. Hsüeh, laughing. "Set your mind at ease, and go and drink your own wine. I won't let him have too much. And should even the old lady say anything, let the fault be mine." Saying this, she asked a waiting maid to take nurse Li along with her, and give her also a glass of wine, so as to keep her out the cold air. When nurse Li heard these words, she had no alternative but to go for a time with all the others and have some wine to drink. "The wine need not be warmed, I prefer it cold," Pao-yü went on to suggest meanwhile. "That won't do," remonstrated Miss Hsüeh. "Cold wine will make your hand tremble when you write." "You have," interposed Pao-ch'ai, smiling, "the good fortune, cousin Pao-yü, of having daily opportunities of acquiring a knowledge of every kind of subject. And yet don't you know that the properties of wine are mostly heating? If you drink wine warm, its effects soon dispel; but if you drink it cold, it at once congeals in you, and as upon your intestines devolves the warming of it, how can you not derive any harm? And won't you yet from this time change this habit of yours, leave off at once drinking that cold wine?" Pao-yü, finding that the words he had heard contained a good deal of sense, speedily put down the cold wine, and having asked them to warm it, he at length drank it. Tai-yü was bent upon cracking melon seeds, saying nothing but simply pursing up her lips and smiling, when, strange coincidence, Lin Tai-yü's waiting maid walked in and handed her mistress a small hand stove. "Who told you to bring it?" ascertained Tai-yü, grinning. "I'm sorry to have given whoever it is the trouble, I'm obliged to her, but did she ever imagine that I would freeze to death?" "Weiyuan was afraid," replied Xueqín, "that you would feel cold, and she asked me to bring it over." Tai-yü took it over and held it in her lap. "How is it," she smiled, "that you listen to what she tells you, but that you treat what I say day after day as so much wind blowing past your ears? How is it that you at once do what she bids you, with even greater alacrity than you would an imperial edict?" Chapter 8, Part 1.